Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of MicroStrategy's Executive Webinar Series. I am delighted to have here with me today Craig Rowlands, Senior Executive of Information Management at Medibank. Craig, thank you so much for your time. Would love for you to start by just introducing yourself to everybody.
Yeah, thanks very much, Thong, and thanks for having me on board. So I'm Craig Rowlands. I'm the Senior Executive for Information Management at Medibank. Medibank are a health insurance and a health services company.
Great. Can you tell us about a little bit of the work that you've been doing lately? Can you give us some highlights? I know you've been doing some pretty transformative stuff at Medibank.
Yeah, I'll start with maybe some of the more recent stuff, and then we'll move on from there. And I'll probably concentrate on cloud and then move forward. So recently, we were actually reaccredited by AWS for the well-architected cloud platform. So initially, we'd got ourselves in a position where we'd managed through their 5 pillars to make sure that we had a really resilient, security focused, cost optimized, performance efficient, and operational excellence type of platform. Now we've got it re-architected to a financial services standard, so it's a bar up. So that's been really good for the organization to know that we have a platform that's fit for purpose for the business going forward. Look, through that, just so you know, we've delivered a lot more increased personalization to our customers through our models, and we're operationalizing those. And there's a faster delivery in our overnight batch off that platform as well. And for that means if we're delivering that information earlier, our teams are having earlier conversations with customers with regard to products and services. So we believe in putting the customer first, and this platform and the things that we're doing at the moment allows us to do that. If you'll indulge me, I'll give you one example. So during a review of our products, and one of them was our overseas visitor one, we had a look at that, more demographic granular information, and we saw that was profitable for the under 75s but not for the over 75s. Well, that now allows our actuaries to have a look at that and price that accordingly, so we can A, provide a great product to customers at all ages, but B, do so at a point where it's competitive for us.
Well, that's great and quite revolutionary. I mean, you're in the insurance industry and the healthcare business. I'm sure you house very confidential information about your end customers, and you're moving to cloud, which that proposition by itself would scare most people when they think about the security associated with it. Tell us about how you were able to get comfortable with that move to the cloud, given the type of information that you store.
Yeah, Song, and you're right. A lot of our information is quite confidential. So you've got health records, you've got personal identifiable information. In our case, we have things like general ledger, sensitive finance information, and even contracts with hospital providers. So there's a tremendous amount in there. How we got comfortable out of the box and there's no secret, by the way, that we're on AWS, but out of the box from AWS, you get certain security criteria, and using the well-architected, that's a great start. But for us, we want to go so much further. So when we ingest the information from our systems, we actually segregate what's sensitive and what's not sensitive into 2 different areas, right? So from a sensitive, there's a lot more restriction on that. So roles-based access management is in there, so that only a small set of individuals can use them. And the kind of example I use is our fraud team would have a look at and access to all of our information, but they'd only have it for a short time period whilst they're investigating a case. And at that point, once that's finalized, they would then not have that access. And our marketing team would only have access to marketing outcomes. And the way that I try and put that in words for individuals is, if we're running something like a park run for individuals and they bring their pets, what we can't do is then use that information to try and market those individuals to try and sell pet insurance, because that's not why they gave us that information. So we segregate for those types of outcomes. So it's only for the usage that you've got it for, and it's to make sure that we put our customers first and protect their information.
Well, that's great. And it makes a lot of sense. A lot of folks think that one of their core competencies is security. And here you are, an insurance provider in the healthcare industry, and realize that you can get better security by using somebody like AWS, who does that sort of day in and day out for major corporations worldwide. It makes a lot of sense. Tell me about some of the other benefits that you got from moving to the cloud. Specifically, I think you've seen benefits in terms of functionality and application capabilities and agility. I would love to hear more about that.
Well, I think I'll probably start with the most boring one, to be honest, which is risk reduction, because people seem to forget that. So when you're moving away from legacy products and you're moving on to AWS, you're typically at the latest version or the next latest version. And even with your software and your applications, once you've made the move, you've you've kind of forced yourself to say, I'm going to stay on top of it, right? Which is great news. So you reduce risk. To me, that's a great foundation. And then from that point onwards, utilizing the tools that you've got and the applications that are available, you can then get to process optimization. So you've got automated testing, you've got ingestion frameworks that bring the information in. You can do completeness checks on that information to make sure that what you had coming through from the source system is what you actually are receiving in the warehouse or the cloud platform, for want of a better word. And then you can profile that to make sure it's accurate. Making sure it's accurate allows you to then make more informed business decisions. So all of that flows through from that side. Cost is good because typically you used to have named vendor licenses. Now they're by minute, whereas they used to be by hour and sometimes by day. So you can turn things on and turn things off. And my analogy of that is if you're not using things on the weekend, don't leave them on. It's a bit like leaving the lights on in the house, right? So that's another scenario. Same for weekends and public holidays. If they're not being used, close them off. If they are being used, just give yourself a little bit of lead time to make sure that you're aware of what you're looking for to have them on to support your units. And then I guess the last one is, I call this the uplifting capability, the tools that we've got. So the analytics tools, much like SageMaker from machine learning, if we can self-teach models to be able to heal themselves as they're going along, then they're always on. So one of the earlier ones that we've had is an always on marketing campaign that's more personalized for customers. That's actually reaped really good rewards for us. But more importantly, it's reaped really good rewards for our customers because it's now much more targeted to their needs and their wants rather than a more of a scattergun approach, which typically still a lot of marketing companies do and marketing teams do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I heard you talk about security, you talked about risk reduction, talked about cost reduction and improved agility. Now, did you have to calculate an ROI or did you put together a business case when you decided to move your analytics stack to the cloud? And what did that look like?
And Fong, yes, we did, just like everybody else. I have to account for the money and make sure I'm spending it wisely. As a CFO, I think you can relate to that. So I would say for us, what we looked at was the myriad of tools that we got. And again, no secret, we had a number of data warehouses. And my view was when we put together what I thought was a common sense approach for a strategy is we want a one-stop shop for Medibank. So people go to a single well and they drink from that. This is the cloud platform. So the costs that we had originally, we could actually reduce them down by reducing the number of warehouses, reducing the number of visualization tools. I'm going to tell you, nobody needs 7 visualization tools. So we've settled on 2 that we think are strategically important. Nobody needs 4 data mapping tools. We're now down to 1. Now, in terms of what the benefits that AWS bring, if you have a single tool for mapping, then you have a standardized approach. If you have a standardized approach and everybody's doing the same thing in the same manner, and that helps with our automation, our frameworks, and also removes a lot of human error. So great outcomes for us in the business case. In true terms, just to give everybody a monetary view, over the course of 3 years, we've utilized 6.2 million AUD, Australian dollars. And in benefits, we've calculated back over that time period, $12.3 million. So effectively, Medibank have doubled their money monetizing the cloud data platform.
Well, that's fantastic. That's really cool. And yeah, as a CFO, I do love to hear about the ROI, and we could talk about it forever, but I'm sure we should move on to other topics. So one of the benefits you talked about is this improved application agility and the fact that now you're able to push data out to more users and increase the adoption of analytics, which is great. With that power, empowering people with more information, you also want to have more control, more security. How did you manage that side of it?
Yeah, and remember, we've got a global model. So that's the first thing to say. And in Australia, the data has to stay in sovereignty, first of all. So it does, it stays in sovereignty. But just like everybody else, we've got a global protector, Citrix. So you have to go through one of those to even to access it. We've got multi-factor authentication for AWS to increase that security. So if you think about those as the kind of bedrock, that's the first start behind it. Then you're mapping roles as roles-based user access to the domains and to the schemas that they should be getting at to be able to utilize that data. So marketing for marketing, sales for sales, risk for risk, etc. Right? So all of that's been mapped out. And as I said, we separate the sensitive and non-sensitive information, and we've got access viewing logs, etc., where every 3 months we make sure that the people are doing the right thing by utilizing those. I mean, the information is constantly scanned to make sure that it's the right case. More recently, we've actually put data de-identification in. So certainly from a test and project perspective, if people are utilizing data, we want to make sure that that information that identifies a customer isn't available. And the kind of example I provide to, and one I've provided many times before, is if you're using a credit card, you don't need the full credit card number details. Of a 16-digit credit card, you need number 1, which is the BIN number to actually determine whether it's a Visa or a MasterCard, and the last digit, number 16. And that one determines if you want to put a control model in there and how you want to do a champion challenger. But everything else can be randomized. So that's the kind of work that we put in to anonymize our customers' information. And it's the same with their name details. Nobody needs to know the specific name of the customer. That's not important. So for us, we can randomize that again. And then that way we can still do our analysis and we can still do our demographics in there in our cluster models, but we do not need to have the specifics of the customer, thus keeping their identity safe and maintaining their privacy.
Great. Well, it sounds like you've accomplished a lot to date, and I know you still have a pretty ambitious roadmap ahead of you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been working on lately?
Yeah, so there's a few things that have been going on lately, and some of those are with MicroStrategy, by the way. So I think it's probably time to bring that conversation into play. So during an upgrade, we've also looked at some of the new functionality for MicroStrategy, and within that, we've managed to be able to uplift some of our channels reporting, and that's really important for us because that means our agents in a much better place to be able to service our customers. And that's not just in a call center, but that's in a number of retail branches as well across Australia. So that is a really good outcome for Medibank. It's also, again, a very good outcome for customers. And we're saying customers first, each and every one. So if we can bring our channels reporting up to the levels that it should be, and we can make it much more timely, then we can provide much better service to our customers. So reporting is number one. The second one is we don't want to be a bottleneck when it comes to reporting either. So we've managed to adopt some self-service models. And the kind of way I explain this is when people are asking, or used to ask before, for what we call a hospital closures report, as an example, we would run an SQL piece of code every time they asked for it. So they would put a request in, we would run a code, and then they would get a response back. And that seems quite elongated as a process. So our view behind that was, well, what do you need to get that information? All they need is some date ranges, the hospital, and the ward. And then they go and self-service that information, and they can do that whenever they want without waiting for us. So we're building out more and more self-service outcomes on behalf of our business people so that they can just go and self-service themselves by these parameterized reports. So in the reporting side, there's a couple of items in there. More recently on the model side and the analytics, we've done a relationship review model. So that's a much more personalized outcome from that point of view as well. So again, we're looking for much more next best action, much more personalization so that we can support our customers going forward in the things that they want to do. I think the last one I'll probably draw to is where we've looked to add some information around how accurate our reporting is. So across our 90 critical reports, we can confirm that the source of the information is really good. So our enterprise data governance looks at the controls and checks of that because it's the full data life cycle. And then we've got profiling in place to make sure it's accurate from that point onwards. So for instance, for APRA, and that's our regulators in Australia, they ask for 97% accuracy on every variable. We go high and we make sure it's at a minimum of 98 on their behalf. So that for us it's not just about making it accessible to people, but it's about making sure it's accurate and accessible so that people can use it to make great informed decisions.
Yeah, so you upgraded MicroStrategy to the most recent version, you migrated to the cloud, and you took advantage of some of the great capabilities, it sounds like platform analytics and some of the things around governance and data security. But let's double click a little bit on your migration of MicroStrategy to the cloud. And I think you moved your BI and your data warehouse to the cloud at the same time. What were some of the things that you learned from that, and what were some of the things you might want to share with others as they embark on a similar initiative?
And I think I've said this before from one of the learnings, and I'll give you an example of why. So the learnings for us is we should have gone faster, right? That's the first and foremost one. I think we waited too long, and I've said this before, but when you consider that individuals are taking 2 laptops to have 2 older versions of MicroStrategy, depending on who they're talking to and what report it's coming from, that's non-value add, right? We all know that. 2 laptops, singular reports, quite clunky, not because of MicroStrategy, but because we had stalled in our upgrade path. So that's the first thing. So we should have gone faster. I can say for me, if you're looking at MicroStrategy as an example, you want the latest functionality, you want the latest capability, so you can draw that. That's the reason why you've got a strategic partnership. That's the reason why we've got a strategic partnership. So that would be the first one that I would say. I think on the second one, planning is absolutely key. We planned for a long time beforehand. So what I will say is, although the migration itself only took 3 months, the planning in earnest was 6 months, and the path to do it was quite difficult. So for us, we had to freeze developments on the on-premise versions of MicroStrategy. We had to put a lot of preparation into the clouds. We actually had to do a number of copies of the metadata because we had 2 old data warehouses at the time, merging them into a single metadata whilst maintaining a level of service to the business, and then from that point onwards, there was all the establishing of connectivity to the cloud, sort of private links to the VPCs, etc. And then once you've got the metadata in there, that needed merging and installing into all of the cloud environments, a heavy load of testing, then cutting over to cloud, and then at the end of that time, closing out the development of the freeze. Now, that project management and that work was significant to be able to get the outcomes. And I will say this, on the end of it, because it was such a good one, I mean, 3 months to me is almost unheard of for an upgrade of that size and a migration, which I thought was fantastic. And, hats off to MicroStrategy for their help on that. But the second part behind it is we only had low defects. Sometimes you're expecting medium and high defects and something that could extend your warranty period. Didn't happen. We could go live at a time that we said, so we could give confidence to the business, and we could fix the smaller items, and there were only a handful of small items in the background. And by the way, some of those are actually hampered by COVID. So the one example I'll give you is desktop wasn't working in one scenario. So you had it in the office and you had it at home. It was working fine at home, but it wasn't working in the office. But we couldn't get into the office because of COVID to be able to resolve for it and test it. So there's some of the unique scenarios that we had to overcome.
Yeah, it's sort of amazing, right? You have the starting point, a very complex analytics installation. You had 7 tools consolidated into 2. And then you layer on top of that being a healthcare based company in the middle of COVID, and you were able to manage a migration of MicroStrategy to the cloud, essentially in 9 months, 6 months of planning and 3 months of execution. We've seen it take less time. We've seen it take more time. But given all the circumstances and the complexity of your data, I thought it was amazing. And, obviously it's a testament to your team and the project management, but we've done hundreds of these migrations now. And so we've sort of seen it all, right? And to your point, a lot of it is about data connectivity, right? Data source connectivity. And if you get those things lined up and the information security lined up, it can be a very painless process. And then to your point earlier, a very high ROI. This is the point where you get to tell everybody how awesome MicroStrategy is, and would love to hear from you. Why specifically did you choose, when you consolidated your BI applications down to 2? Why did you choose MicroStrategy to be one of those? And how do you feel that decision is playing out for you?
Well, MicroStrategy is one of the 2. So MicroStrategy and Tableau. And the reason behind the 2 is they're very complementary, first of all. So when we had a look at the the capability of each of them. And, we didn't just take our word for it. We actually went and had a look and a conversation with Gartner and with Forrester as well, by the way. So we didn't just take a singular insular look. We actually had an external look from, analytics experts, so to speak. So that was the first one. And they came up with the same agreement that we did, on why we feel that they're there. So number one, complementary skills. Number two, the uniqueness of the tool for MicroStrategy for us allows for the channels reporting team in particular, and for us in some of the health services areas, to be able to utilize the outcomes, particularly in the reporting capability. The drill through to us is fantastic. We can go through from store to store manager to agent to particular product, all of that, and they can get that on almost a touch of a button, right? So all of that is readily available for them. And it's very clear and easily to read, right? So the graphics and the visualization is very easy for them. And that's what we're attempting to do here. We're trying to pass over sometimes complex information in a non-complex manner to individuals who aren't necessarily always used to using these tools. So the end user's great. They love it. I can tell you now, the users, the actual report writers, they're finding it really easy to use, particularly the new functionality. So when they were looking at the outcomes that we had, they were talking about the library upgrades in there and how easy it is for them to be able to deploy and build reporting over and above which they were actually enabled to be able to do so on the legacy versions, because we hadn't been anywhere close to some of the functionality and we hadn't been sweating the asset from a MicroStrategy point of view. So they were really good from our perspective. We looked at some of the other capabilities across some of the other tools. I actually felt like some of them were actually a little bit clunky. They weren't quite as easy to use. I didn't think they were as easy or as intuitive for the customers. I think that the second part behind it is the support model. When you look at, and support is really important, but there's heaps of information from MicroStrategy for the reporting teams and the visualization teams, first of all, to be able to use. There's lots of user type information for them to be able to build really good reports. But for us, from an operational point of view as well, the work with your team around some of the questions that we ask and I use that really from the projects and some of the really in-depth way that we were bringing stuff together. It was a fantastic collaboration. So it's not just about what it says on paper. It's actually what happens in practice. The collaboration between the teams, how timely the information comes back, the support model to make sure everything's up and running. It's not gone down. It runs like clockwork. I mean, everybody loves that, right? Because then you're saying we've got high resilience in there, and we know that we've got reports that run as and when we need them. We're not going to worry about them going on or off, but it also gives us the information we need at both a higher level for senior execs and at a lower level, a more granular level for individuals that need to dig in that. So, and people can sweep up and down through that. What more can I ask? Now, we're looking for more real-time examples to be able to use for people. Again, MicroStrategy has the capability for us to do that. It's not MicroStrategy that's not doing that. It's actually Medibank now working towards what's next.
Yeah, and that's really what MicroStrategy really is trying to accomplish with the cloud for our customers, right? Like run the environment, operate the environment, always available, so you don't have to worry about that. And then provide you innovative ideas, ways to enhance your BI platform so that you can truly add value to your customers, which in some cases are your users in your organization, sometimes are your end customers. So I'd love to hear how you really sort of transition from trying to, dealing with operating 7 BI environments and probably just day to day, making sure they're running, making sure reports are available to people, to really adding business value to the organization. So with that, what's next for you, Craig? You've done so much already, but I know, folks like yourselves and in the industry you're in, you have to keep innovating. So what are some of the new products and new ideas you have coming out?
We do. So across Medibank and themselves and our secondary brand, which is AHM, we have a number of different insurance products. So, for us, it's what do our customers want from, it's not just a health insurance, but if you think about life insurance, travel, although not so much at the moment, but we hope so in the future, car insurance, household insurance, pet insurance. So you've got all of those. What we want to do is bring that to life, right? And say for each customer in each lifestyle stage that they're at, how do we make that readily available, and how do we make that readily accessible to them? And we believe, and obviously we're looking at working with yourselves in the hyper intelligence cards that are available. We think there are a couple of certainly unique use cases for us. So in the retail branches themselves, we think rolling out hyper intelligence features to increase personalizations to our members, so it's in a timed manner, that kind of gives them a view of, particularly our agents, what's the priority order that the customer feel that they want to talk about our products and our services, and the ones that really matter to them. So that's, to us, is an area that we're very keen to explore now that we're looking at bring your own device. And to the second point, and the one that's probably less well known for Medibank, is we do health services, so we do a lot of rehab at home. So thinking of, we call it Better Knee, Better Me, but when you've had knee surgery and you're looking to recover from that, what we're looking at is having physios go out and visit those individuals. Now, if we can have information through MicroStrategy readily available, and we can talk to those customers with that information, we can actually help their recovery so they recover faster. Now, recover faster from a customer point of view, better health and well-being, not just physical, but actually mental, because they're up and they're about, they're moving. So that's great for them. But from us as well, also lower cost, right? So to me, it's a win-win scenario off the back of that. We can do similar things with rehab at home for people who've had cardiac problems in the past. So on these cases, and using bring your own devices and the power of MicroStrategy, particularly the hyper intelligence cards, we feel that these are the next areas that we want to break out into as an innovation outcome from a Medibank perspective.
Well, that's fantastic. An ambitious agenda after a great amount of work that you've done. The journey to the cloud, as you explain it, can be quite lucrative in terms of returns to the organization, and also in terms of improved security, reduced risk, and you've really proven it out and done it very quickly. So congratulations to you on that. Thank you for partnering with MicroStrategy and being such a good customer, and thank you for your time here today.
Thanks very much, Fong. I'll say it is a partnership, so it's mutual. So thank you all, and yes, thanks for having me on.
All right, take care, Craig.
Thank you.